One of the Cardinals' big acquisitions at the trade deadline shows the home crowd why he was worth trading a fan favorite for. This is Locked On Cardinals.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Hafford, and I'm a national radio sports anchor, born and raised in the Lou, and a lifetime Cardinals fan. And I'm your host for Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. You can follow me on Twitter, X at JD Sports Radio, as well as the podcast at LO_Cardinals. We do want to thank those of you who make Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube. Make sure you stop on by, say hi there as well, because this is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans in baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. So this year's trade deadline was an interesting one for the Cardinals because they were an organization that didn't want to part with the prospects that it would likely take to land any of these so-called top names that were available. And it looked like nobody really did. I mean, look at some of these names that were supposedly going to get traded and did not get moved. So we're talking about Garrett Crochet, Luis Robert Jr., Bo Bichette, Vladdy Jr., Derek Skubal, Mason Miller, Brett Rooker. I'll even throw a little Tyler Anderson in there for you as well. They all stayed with their team. So when you look at who did get moved at the trade deadline, the Cardinals ended up getting one of the top starters that were actually available in Erick Fedde from the White Sox. And by the way, they fired their manager this morning. How happy do you think that dude is right now? He's like, whoo, finally, I'm out of here. Nobody likes getting fired, but that's just a no-win situation in Chicago. So kind of felt bad for their manager. Anyway, so to get Erick Fedde, the Cardinals had to trade a fan favorite. We love Tommy Edman and all that he did for the Cardinals, but we hadn't seen any of them this year, so it probably didn't sting quite as much as trading away a guy that you saw playing every day, which Tommy Edman would have had he been healthy this year. So he ends up going to the Dodgers for a low-level prospect. Now, that one guy, Tommy Pham, you've heard of him, came over as well, been red hot at the plate, obviously. But Fedde was the big piece, right? He was the main target, not only because of what he had done already this year, but they're going to have him under contract for next year, too, at a ridiculously reasonable price of $7.5 million. He doesn't have the name recognition of some of the other guys around the league, but the numbers are what they are. He's been one of the top right-handed starters in the whole league, while on the worst team in all of baseball and possibly baseball history. They're on their way to having like the worst record ever with in a 162-game season. Now, in Fedde's first start against the Cubs, he had a really, really, really bad second inning. You remember it. I don't have to go through it all. But after that, after he kind of settled in, after the moment which he admitted got a little big for him, he settles in and he throws 3 shutout innings after that, retires 10 straight hitters. On Wednesday night, in his first game as a Cardinal at Busch Stadium, he was solid again. Unspectacular, but solid. You don't go out there and you see him pitching and you're like, whoa, like he doesn't blow you away with 98, 99. He doesn't have, pitches that just fall off the table or disgusting splitters or, anything explosive like that. But he's a solid pitcher. Added that sweeper, is normally around the zone. He's a very Cardinal kind of guy. Ends up going 5 innings on a Wednesday, allows just 1 run on 4 hits, walks 2, he strikes out 6. They weren't easy innings really either. There was a lot of traffic on the base paths against Erick Fedde on Wednesday night. First inning wasn't so bad, but in the second, you had a double, you had a walk before he punched out a couple of guys to get out of that. Third inning, you get back-to-back singles, and you've got runners on first and third. There's a tapper back to the mound, and I don't know if he just forgot how many outs there were or what was going on. We'll tell you what he said about it later. But instead of going home, where he had the runner coming home like dead to right, like he would have been out big time. Fedde decides to spin and throw the ball to second and try to turn the double play. They do get the lead runner at second, but the runner at first is safe, and that tied things up at 1. Then the runner steals second. He walks a guy, but ends up wiggling out of it to keep it tied. But talking about the play afterwards, Fedde said, just one of those things where before I was thinking catcher on third and maybe wouldn't be going home, but they wanted to stay out of the double play. Just kind of a mistake by me, but one to learn from. And at least it didn't lead to a big inning. I think that's the most important thing about being a pitcher is limiting big innings. My last start, I wasn't able to do that, but today did a much better job. So mindset-wise, it makes sense, but the play's right in front of you. You can hear the guys on the field. You can hear Contreras going, home, 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 home. And he had already made up his mind and was spinning to second base. So whatever. It ended up working out okay because the big inning didn't happen. But, it's one of those things, too, where when you're a team that is struggling offensively, like you don't want to be just giving away runs when the other team is like giving you an out right in front of you. So at the time, it felt like, oh my gosh, what a bonehead. But in the end, it didn't work out so bad. After that, it went very similar to how his game in Chicago went, where he retired 8 of the last 9 batters he faced and looked pretty darn good. Ollie, talking about Fedde before the game, said that, he's an even keel guy, understands the game, understands what he needs to do. There are times it's going to go his way and times it's not. He's not going to get overly excited one way or the other. That was good to see. Kind of sounds familiar, right? A type of player that the Cardinals would very much be attracted to. You got a lot of those kind of guys. He's like the Paul Goldschmidt of pitchers, right? Just good or bad, you don't get much of a reaction hardly ever. It's just business. He goes out, he does his job, and does it to the best of his ability. So it was a good game. Like, again, it's unspectacular. But all of a sudden you look up, he's through 5 innings. He's only allowed 1 run and 4 hits. You're like, well, I guess that was pretty good. Strikes out 6. You're like, well, that was pretty good. And if the pitch count hadn't, climbed a little bit in those first 3 innings, might have qualified for a quality start. And that'll be something that he has to work on, is trying to limit the amount of pitches that he throws early on in these games. So doesn't make it past the 5th inning because of that pitch count. But by the time he left the game, the Cardinals had a nice lead thanks to actually hitting with runners in scoring position. I want to talk about the offense and give them some props next on Locked On Cardinals. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 5 million members. They're the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike other apps, PrizePicks has it where it's just you against the numbers. You're not playing other opponents, other people. It's just you and the numbers, you deciding on what you think will or will not happen. You pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and then you just watch your winnings roll in. You can join the PrizePicks community with your friends and get in on the excitement and win up to 100 times your cash with the summer games on PrizePicks, where you can turn $10 into $1,000 while watching Team USA rack up the gold medals and any medals, really, because they just got a ton of them so far in the Olympics, which is starting to wind down a little bit. Obviously, you can make a PrizePicks lineup of players across basketball, soccer, tennis, golf, and a whole lot more in as little as 60 seconds. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB, LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with PrizePicks. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and have to turn down the volume because of all the shouting? Then make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all of the screaming. We've got can't miss analysis, opinions, news, all streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. You're a team every day. And remember, you can catch every pitch of the Cardinals' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Cardinals. So before the game even started, the Cardinals, my wrestling fans are going to love this. The Cardinals had a pretty cool guest throwing out the ceremonial first pitch on Wednesday. WWE superstar, St. Louis native, Randy Orton was out there on the mound, and he had a lot of guys feeling pretty giddy about him being in attendance. A lot of these guys, Randy Orton's in his mid-40s now. So a lot of these guys grew up as kids watching him dominate in the WWE. He's a wrestling legend, part of a legendary family, the Orton family, the Viper, the Legend Killer, the Apex Predator himself out there throwing the first pitch. His form on the pitch, let's just say this. For a guy who has been as athletic as anyone in the ring over his career, and the guy that's unleashing RKOs out of nowhere constantly on people, I expected a little better, a little bit better form, but hey, he got the job done because not only did he not throw it in the dirt, he made it all the way to Michael Ciani, who was catching him behind the plate, but it got the offense a little jacked up. Guys like Alec Burleson, we're very excited to see him. Apparently, Burley also changed his walk-up song for the night because of Orton being in attendance, which is great because he hit very, very well. But the offense came out and they were ready to attack, just like Orton would be in the wrestling ring against Rays pitcher Taj Bradley, who again has been excellent this year. We talked about his stats in the last episode. His ERA had been under 2 over like the last month. Like, it's not like people hit this guy all that often. And the Cardinals got on him early after getting a lot of production from the rookies on Tuesday night. On Wednesday, it was a full-on team effort from top to bottom. They got the job done. No Goldie in the lineup. He hadn't had a hit since last Thursday, but apparently this was a scheduled day off for him, so it wasn't just because he's slumping. No Tommy Pham either. It was a lefty-heavy lineup against Bradley with Burley at first, Donnie in left, Carpet DH, Gorman at second. Mason Wynn continues to be a great catalyst at the top of the order. Led off the game with a 2-strike double to left because that's what he does. He gets hits with 2 strikes against him. Burley pops one that dives at the warning track in left center, like so many fly balls this year at Busch Stadium for the Cardinals, but it moved over Mason to third base. And then Wilson Contreras, who hadn't had an RBI in his last 9 games, hits one up the middle, deflects off the pitcher into right field for the RBI single. Contreras had a couple of nice at-bats in this one, drove the ball hard a couple of times. In the third inning, Burley and Contreras singled to start the inning, and thanks to an error in center, both guys end up being safe at second and third. So here's that situation again, right? Runners in scoring position, the absolute kryptonite for the Cardinals. Not just recently. I know it's been really bad recently, but, over the season, the team has not been as good with runners in scoring position. Brendan Donovan comes up. He's the first guy, first pitch swinging, and he grounds out to the first baseman. And you're just like, bro! But this particular pitch was actually over the plate and kind of, in the meat of the zone. So you can't really blame Donnie there. I'm just more of a patient hitter at the plate. I'm the guy that's always like, kind of take a strike, make sure this dude's not freaking out. But the Cardinals were jumping on first pitches. So grounds out to the first baseman. That brings up Nolan Arenado, who had singled in his first at-bat. Nice single to right field. And after taking a first pitch strike, which was up in the zone, and that, that's not his strong suit. He's a low ball hitter. We've talked about this before. He ends up getting a cutter that comes over the heart of the plate, drives it into the ground, but with enough velocity that it just goes doing, and it chops over the third baseman and down the line into left field. It scores both runners. It's a double for Nolan Arenado. I saw that tweet earlier from BK over at 101 ESPN about how he hadn't had an RBI double or something like that since May with runners in scoring position, something nutty like that. But it made it 3-1. So obviously a key hit. Very nice to see. Hit them where they ain't. That's the idea, right? So ends up being a line shot double in the scorebook. In the fourth inning, they strike again. Gorman in the lineup again, gets the leadoff walk. We know those usually tend to score, so it's nice to see Gorman working a walk there. Mason Wynn, another single, and then Biscuits drills one down the line in the right field corner to plate 2 more, making it 5-1. The Cardinals are running away with it, right? That's 3 hits in the first 4 innings with runners in scoring position for the Cardinals, something they desperately needed. And after Fedde, the Cardinals end up deploying Ryan Fernandez in the 6th. JoJo comes on, then Kittredge, and then Ryan Helsley to close things up. Things got a little scary for Fernandez thanks to the back-to-back singles and then a walk, which brought up the tying run with nobody out because that's what the Cardinals do for some reason. They just love to make us sweat. And you know how I whine about the Cardinals fly balls, particularly at Busch Stadium. They just die at the warning track. I would love to find a stat of how many Cardinals fly balls landed at the warning track at Busch Stadium this year. I don't know where I go to go look that up. I'm sure it's out there somewhere, but gosh, it feels like they do it 4 or 5 times a game. It happened a bunch on Wednesday night as well. But in this particular situation, it kind of helped them out because Ray shortstop, Jose Caballero, he drove one to deep center field. And off the bat, I thought it was going into the bushes. I thought it was a tying grand slam. I thought they were screwed. And Busch Stadium just swallows it up and goes, spits it back out. Ends up falling into Victor Scott's glove on the warning track. It scores the run, sac fly, but not nearly the damage, obviously, that a grand slam would have caused. Fernandez gets the next 2 guys, gets out of it, luckily, with just 1 run scoring. So that was sweaty. Romero and Kittredge, they throw up a couple of zeros. And then we get to Ryan Helsley in the 9th inning. And again, for whatever reason, Ryan Helsley hates easy saves. He despises them. He's got a 3-run lead. And I'm telling you, I feel like you could bring Ryan Helsley in with a 9-run lead and he'd somehow make it interesting. I don't know why, because it's wild to me, considering the pitching arsenal that Ryan Helsley possesses. You know, he's got a fastball at 102. He's got a really good slider. He's got that curveball that it's a 12-6 curveball that just goes, boom, has people flailing at that. But yet, somehow, some way, hitters are getting on against him. So after a 1-out single and then a walk, which is really where a lot of his problems stem from. That's when things really escalate against Helsley, is when he walks a guy. That brings up the tying run to the plate. And good for Helsley here, where it's like, enough's enough. He just started rearing back and throwing smoke past him and strikes out the next 2 guys. Cardinals win it by a score of 5-2. Back-to-back wins, which is really nice to see following what you saw in Chicago. And, of course, that first game against the Mets after coming back from the trip to Wrigley. Some notes, courtesy of our good man over at Rob Brains at STLSportsPage.com. Top 3 hitters in the Cardinals lineup, which was Wynn, Burleson, and Contreras, combined for 6 hits, 3 RBIs, and 4 runs scored. The Cardinals put the leadoff man on in each of the first 4 innings, and 3 times that guy ended up coming around to score. They go 3 for 11 with runners in scoring position, which, even though that's not great, better than what they've been getting, so we'll take it, right? The RBI for Contreras was his first in 10 games and his first RBI that did not come on a home run since July 20th. It was the first RBI from the 3rd-place hitter in the Cardinals lineup in 6 games. And as good as the offense was early on, I do kind of want to point out that they went into kind of a coma a little bit later on for the rest of the game. Had only 1 hit after the 4th inning, which was a 2-out double by Nolan Gorman in the 5th inning, who also hit the ball hard a couple of times last night. So it'd be nice to see him get going again. The boys go for the series sweep tonight. Kyle Gibson will be on the mound for the Cardinals up against Shane Baz. Is it Baz or Baz? I think it's Shane Baz. Baz, either way. He's pitching for the Rays. We're going to check in on the injured Cardinals and take a look at the playoff picture. It's getting tight. Next on Locked on Cardinals. It's sweaty outside, although things are cooling off a little bit in St. Louis right now, which is kind of nice. But, it gets very, very humid, very, very hot and sweaty in St. Louis and in the Midwest during summers, which means you got to stay hydrated. It's important to do it. You're out cutting the lawn. You're out doing outdoor activities like going to Cardinal baseball games, going to Six Flags, going to the zoo, whatever it may be. And you got to stay hydrated. It's very, very important. And that's where Liquid IV can help you out. Get hydrated with electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients from the #1 powdered hydration brand in America. It's more than just a drink. Liquid IV is a science-backed way to hydrate better than you ever have before. And it's delicious. So many flavors to choose from to tantalize your taste buds. White peach, cotton candy. You've got their iconic summer flavor of popsicle firecracker available right now. You can find all of them and more on their website, which is liquidiv.com. Tear, pour, live more. 1 stick plus 16 ounces of water. It's going to hydrate you better than water alone, with 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink and 8 essential vitamins and nutrients. No more thirsty summers when you indulge in hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com. Use the code MLB at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today. Use the code. Promo code's MLB. Do it now at liquidiv.com. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen today. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On MLB podcast. Host Paul Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully, is here daily to provide you national expertise with his trademark humor to help you get ready for the MLB playoffs and the dog days of summer. You can prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who's got you covered every single day on Locked On MLB, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So let's start with some of the wounded birds who are on the mend. The ghost of Steven Matz continues to rehab. Yeah, he's still going. Allowed a run in 2 2/3 innings on Tuesday with AAA Memphis. Allowed 3 hits, walked 2. 34 of his 50 pitches were strikes. Manager Ali Marmol said he came out of the game feeling really good. Matz has been injured since May 3rd with what he called a herniated disc in his back. Earlier this week, he increased the pitches to 50 after throwing 30 in an August 1st outing, and Ali said that Matz is ramping up to return as a starter, but he could potentially be used as a reliever if needed when he's ready to return to the Cardinals, which, you know, if Matz is healthy, I mean, be nice to have a left-hander in the rotation, kind of switch things up. They don't have any of those right now. Matz had his rehab stint shut down twice, if you remember, because pain kept coming back to the lower back. He's pitched in 5 minor league games, 3 with AAA Memphis, 2 with AA Springfield, has struck out 12 and walked 4 in 11 2/3 innings. Remember a couple years ago, and he was injured for a long time with the knee issue and then came back and was really, really good out of the bullpen. So that could be something too. So there's a couple of routes we can go with Steven Matz, but got to get healthy first. Riley O'Brien made another relief appearance in Memphis on Wednesday night. He allowed 1 hit with 1 strikeout in a scoreless inning. He's made 8 appearances so far and thrown 7 innings since coming back to game action on July 20th, allowing 2 earned runs, struck out 5 with an ERA of 2.57. If he continues to throw without pain, and that seems to be how he is right now, could get activated to the Major League roster at sometime this month. It's definitely a possibility. Also want to give a shout out to first-round draft pick J.J. Wetherholt, who hit his first pro home run. 7th inning solo shot on Wednesday proved to be the game winner in Palm Beach's 7-6 victory in their first game of a doubleheader. He talked about his experience so far in pro ball and how much he's enjoying it, saying it's been a lot of fun just playing on such a consistent basis. You can get back into a groove and back into it after the college season ended. The guys here are really cool. The coaching staff is awesome. It's been a ton of fun to play. Hey, getting up every day, having some breakfast, grabbing a coffee, and going to play some baseball. Those are the days you dream about as a kid, getting up and only playing baseball. It's been a ton of fun to do. So glad to hear JJ's having a great experience so far. We posted up his exit velocities recently on Twitter X, and, he's hitting the ball hard. He's not always getting hits, but he's hitting the ball hard. He's hitting 250, 1 home run, 1 ribby, couple of doubles, 5 runs scored over his first 20 at-bats as a pro. All right, so let's look at the standings, shall we? After last night's win, Cardinals are now 59-56 on the season. They're still 6 back of the Milwaukee Brewers in the NL Central, who were winners again last night. They've won 2 in a row to match the Cardinals. It just seems like every time the Cardinals do win a game, the Brewers win a game. When they lose, the Brewers lose. Like they're in sync right now. And it's not helping the Cardinals out as far as gaining any ground in the division, which some people still will tell you they think is probably the easier way for the Cardinals to make it into the playoffs, which I understand. I see that because there are a lot of teams competing for the 3 wild card spots, but trying to make up 6 games, and I know they got to play the Brewers a bunch still this season, which you got to win those games, obviously. You can't just split and be right where you started. But 6 games is a lot, guys. And the Brewers they just don't stop. Like, they just keep staying the course. You know, like I said, last 10 games, the Cardinals are 5-5. Guess where the Brewers are? They're 5-5. The Pirates did lose. They've lost 3 in a row now, so they've fallen 2 games back of the Cardinals in the division. Cubs have won 2 more. Reds are losers down in, where were they? Tampa Bay, I believe. No, they were in Miami. They lost, so they're still in last place. 9.5 back in the division. As far as the wild card goes, in the National League, the Diamondbacks and the Padres continue to be scorching hot. They're both 8-2 in their last 10. They've both won 4 in a row. So they just keep doing their stuff. The Braves are on really hard times. They've now lost 4 in a row and are very close to falling out of a wild card spot. The Mets in the NL East are just a half game behind the Braves now for that third wild card spot. The Cardinals are now 2 back. Behind them, it's the San Francisco Giants at 3.5 back, and then you got the Pirates at 4 and so forth as you make your way down. So, I mean, the Cardinals are 2 back, but losing to the Mets earlier this week, that didn't help matters, considering that's who is in front of you right now in the wild card chase. So I can see both sides. Why you would think that the NL Central way is a way to go, because you're only competing against the Brewers there, where here, this last spot, you've got the Braves, you've got the Mets, you've got the Giants, obviously the Padres and Diamondbacks. If they stay where they are, you don't even worry about them because you'll never catch them. But, there's a lot of teams that made some upgrades at the trade deadline that are ahead of you now. So bottom line really is just got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of what you can control, which is your particular game. And so far, 2 games against the Rays, they've been able to do that. They need to do it again tonight. They won the series, so we got the ugly old man shirt on, which is great, but I'd love to have a broom out later tonight, wouldn't you? That would be nice. The Cardinals could use a sweep. It's been a while since we've had one of those good feelings like that. So, again, Gibson on the mound tonight at Busch Stadium. Bring your brooms. I hope there's more people in the crowd than there was on Wednesday night. It seemed very, very empty to me. So, they're in a playoff chase, guys. Maybe head on out to the ballpark and see what's going on in person. So, anyhow, let's wrap things up today. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen each and every day. If you haven't already, do me a solid. Give me a follow on Twitter X at @LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. Like, subscribe on YouTube. We're at we're almost at, what was it, 10,500 subscribers. We're almost there. So if you're somebody who enjoys the channel and you enjoy Cardinal baseball and talking baseball just in general, would love to have you as a subscriber. So do that on YouTube and make sure you hit that like button. Smash that like button if you could, because I get thousands of views on these, and then I have like 120 likes and like 1 or 2 dislikes. But hit the like button, man. It'll help get things sent out there so more Cardinals fans can enjoy what we're doing. You're the best fans in baseball for a reason. I will see you next time on Locked On Cardinals.